Today, we're going to dive deep into the three distinct waves of AI that are completely reshaping how we understand, diagnose, and even treat the mind.
And really, it all boils down to this one kind of provocative question, doesn't it? Is your therapist replaceable? Now, the answer is evolving as fast as the tech itself, and let me tell you, it is way more complex than a simple yes or no.
The story really starts right here, with this fundamental shift in what AI even is in this field. For decades, AI was just a tool, something a psychologist would use, like a calculator or a scanner. But now, it's becoming something else entirely, a collaborator, an active participant in therapy itself. And this is the central idea we're going to be exploring today.
So, to really get our heads around this, we're going to follow the evolution step by step. First, we'll look at traditional AI, which was kind of like a digital microscope for the mind. Then we'll see how the creative engine of generative AI learned to speak our language. After that, we'll meet the real game changer, the proactive partner, agentic AI. We'll even see it in action. And then, finally, we're going to have to grapple with the huge ethical questions this new autonomy brings up.
Okay, first up, let's look at the foundation, traditional AI. This is where the whole computational journey in psychology really kicked off, with what they called expert systems and really clear rule-based logic. So, what is traditional AI really? Well, think of it like a brilliant but very rigid analyst. It works on super strict if-then logic. So, if a patient's answers show patterns A, B, and C, then the system classifies them as high risk for depression. It was fantastic for sifting through mountains of clinical data and spotting patterns that were just invisible to the human eye. It really was like a digital microscope.
And this quote right here just perfectly sums up its biggest limitation. This early AI could tell you if you were depressed, sure, but it couldn't talk to you about why or help you work through it. It was an analyst, not a conversationalist. It could classify, but it couldn't create.
So here's the crucial point. While it was an incredibly powerful analyst, it couldn't generate empathy. It couldn't give personalized advice. It couldn't do the human part of therapy. And that functional gap was huge, and it perfectly set the stage for the next revolution.
And this is where the next wave crashes in. Enter the creative engine, generative AI, or GenAI, which is powered by those large language models we've all been hearing so much about, like GPT.
Now, unlike its predecessor, GenAI doesn't just classify, it creates. By learning from these absolutely massive data sets of human language, it can synthesize brand new human-like responses. And for the first time, this meant an AI could actually speak the language of emotion and empathy. It could generate personalized psychoeducation, it could reflect a user's feelings, and it could hold a supportive dialogue. But, and this is a really big but, here's the catch, GenAI has no agency. It's incredibly powerful, but it's fundamentally reactive. It just sits there and waits for you to make the first move. It can respond beautifully if you say, "I feel sad," but it can't notice on its own that you might be struggling and reach out first. It's a gifted conversationalist for sure, but it has to be spoken to.
And this is where the story gets truly futuristic. The next evolution is agentic AI. And this is the shift from a reactive tool to an autonomous, proactive partner.
Agentic AI is a complete paradigm shift. We are talking about systems that can perceive their environment, say through data on your phone or your smartwatch, reason about what that data means, come up with a plan, and then actually act on that plan, all with minimal human input. They don't just answer, they do. This slide puts the difference in a nutshell. Generative AI is reactive. It needs you to start the conversation. Agentic AI is proactive. It might see the data from your watch. You're sleeping poorly, you're less active, and it acts before a crisis hits, maybe by alerting a caregiver. That is an incredible leap.
Okay, this table right here, this is where it all comes together. We go from the deterministic logic of traditional AI to the probabilistic prediction of Gen AI, and now to these perception-action loops of agentic AI. You can see the role itself evolve, from a simple screener to a dialogue partner and finally to a provider of continuous autonomous care. This is the whole evolutionary map on one slide.
So this isn't just theory, okay? Let's look at how agentic AI is already being put into action in some pretty groundbreaking research, moving from just a concept to a reality. Okay, take the PsychoGAT framework. This is so cool. It turns these boring, sterile psychological questionnaires into engaging, personalized games. And it uses a whole team of AIs. First, you've got the designer agent, who's like the storyteller, weaving a narrative. Then there's the controller agent, who's like the silent engineer, managing the game and secretly mapping your choices back to clinical scores. And finally, a third critic agent acts as quality control, making sure the story is fair, valid, and psychologically sound. And the results are just stunning. This gamified system achieves a psychometric reliability score of over 0.89. Now, in psychology, that's an excellent score. It means this system is just as consistent and reliable as the traditional boring forms it's replacing. So this proves it's not just more fun, it's also clinically sound.
And here's another amazing example, the My Heart Counts Coach, or MHC Coach. What researchers did was they took a large language model, fine-tuned it on principles of behavioral science, stuff like motivational interviewing, and then they pitted it directly against messages written by human health experts. The goal was simple. Who's better at motivating people to be more physically active?
Well, the results were a landslide. I mean, look at this chart. It's not even close. 68% of people preferred the messages from the AI coach. It turns out that an AI fine-tuned on the principles of behavioral science was actually better at motivating people than human experts were. It was seen as more helpful, and people said they were more likely to act on its advice. Wow.
Okay, so this incredible power brings us to the final and maybe the most important part of this whole discussion, the profound new ethical challenges that come along with autonomous AI.
With Gen AI, the main risk was what you'd call informational harm. You know, getting bad advice or a harmful suggestion. But with agentic AI, the risk evolves into behavioral harm. When an AI can take actions on your behalf, like contacting your doctor or ordering you a subscription to a meditation app, the potential for things to go wrong changes fundamentally. It's no longer just about bad words, it's about bad actions.
And this leads us straight into something called the autonomy control paradox. See, a sense of agency and control over your own life is absolutely vital for mental well-being. But if you have an AI that's autonomously scheduling your appointments and alerting your family, how do we make sure it's empowering you instead of making you feel powerless and constantly watched? It's a really tough question. Ultimately, this may be the future we're looking at. The psychologist isn't replaced, not at all, but the role evolves. They become the architect, the designer, and the ethical guardian of these powerful new systems. Their new job is to ensure that as these machines gain agency, they do so always, always, in the service of our own human well-being. A pretty fascinating thought to leave you with.